Okay, first up, a little bit of news. Obviously, we've been talking recently about smurfing being, kind of a big problem and an issue with League, and with Riot not really releasing data on how many games in low elo include Smurfs. It's really hard to say how widespread of a problem it is. But Riot's actually doing something about it, which is in patch 14.15, which I think we're on now. They're making some additional changes so that they'll be requiring players that have played 10, requiring players to play 10 non ranked Summoner's Rift games before entering ranked. So, what that means is that if you didn't know, your normal game MMR, if you've never been placed in ranked before, impacts your ranked placements. Now, if your normal game MMR goes up and your account's already been ranked or you have an older account, this doesn't really matter. But the important implication of this is that instead of leveling accounts using bots only, bot games only, or an ARAMs, which some people do as well, which don't end up affecting your ranked placement. Instead, you're going to have to play 10 normal games, and they can use at least those 10 normal games to gauge how good you are as a player, to help seed Smurfs in ranked, hopefully in a higher seeding. So the idea is that if you have a Smurf who's Emerald or Diamond or Masters or whatever, that they're going to play these 10 normal games minimum, and then those normal games are going to make sure that that person is placing, more into Platinum Plus rather than starting out more in like silver or gold, and then kind of quickly working their way up as they play their ranked placements. So this is actually a really good change. And then the other thing that they're doing, which is unrelated, is they're changing the way that declining works, so that you can, right now, if you didn't know, you actually, if you decline a game 4 times in a row, it counts as a dodge, and it gives you a warning the third time that you decline a game. Obviously, that's pretty lenient. I don't really think people run into that. The reason why that is because there are people who are able to abuse that, who are win trading or trying to match with another player or against another player, and also people who are trying to stream snipe or something like that. A player that they want to get in their game will wait for indication on that person's stream that their game is about to start, and then they'll end up declining if they're not in the same lobby, and then they'll keep doing that until they get in the same lobby as the person if they can. So obviously, since it's just being used for nefarious purposes, when we're talking about doing it that many times, like stream sniping or trying to win trade, they're reducing the number of times that you can hit decline before you end up getting a dodge. And so be really careful, because if you decline one time, you'll immediately get a warning. And the second time that you decline, you're instantly going to get a dodge in a row. And so you have to actually like play a match, right? If you haven't accepted the previous one, you have to play a match in order to reset that. So it could be really bad, right? Like if you go, I think it's almost a little bit too harsh. I think they could have moved to 2 and 3 instead of moving to 1 and 2 for these warnings and the penalty. But like if you try to queue up while you're going to the bathroom or something like that, or getting water, now if you don't get there in time to accept, you better be sure that the second time that you queue up, once you've gotten that warning, you're sitting there waiting for the game the whole time. And again, this isn't really, a terrible change or anything like that. Obviously, like I said, it's going to help with stream sniping. It's going to help with win trading in low masters. And it's also going to help make sure that queue times are a little bit shorter and people actually accept the games, because maybe people are more likely to, go to the bathroom and get water before they hit queue up, which is probably for the best because it wastes less people's time, I guess. So, that's good. What I actually want to talk about today is something that's a little bit old, but I recently learned about, and it's really big news because I was wrong about how the rank system works in League, and quite drastically so. And originally there was this post on Reddit, and it was about a completely different topic. And some rioters ended up responding to this post and revealing a lot of information about how the rank system works, in a way that I don't think people were aware of up until this point. And so there's a lot of crazy information in here, and we're going to go through it. I had thought that the rank system that League uses was a slight modification on the chess elo rating system, and that the only metric that Riot was taking into account was your wins and losses, and that was it. Because ultimately, what we care about in League and what we think makes a skilled player is their ability to win or lose games, not their ability to do other stuff at the end of the day. And so we want players who are able to win the most games at a rank to climb, not players who are doing certain other things well, even though those are skills. But, you know. So in this post, the person actually just said, completely different topic, it feels really awful to achieve your highest rating ever by creating a new account instead of improving. And so they talked about the new rank distribution. We talked about this before, how they had shifted a lot of the ranks up so that there was a more normal bell curve or distribution around the ranks in the middle of the game, like gold, platinum, and emerald, instead of having so many players stuck in bronze and silver. But obviously, for a player who was in like platinum, they're saying that it feels bad that it took them so long to get to plat, and now all of a sudden a silver player is just able to get to plat really quickly. And you know, this is a fair point, but we'll get into what ends up actually being said here by the rioters responding to different questions and comments on this topic, and they end up getting into how ranked works. And so in this video by Nakrit, who's great, we can see the tweets, and this happened about 6 months ago actually, so it's kind of old, but very important information. And I don't think most people are aware of it, because I wasn't aware of it. Obviously, like, I follow the game. So Riot Iskar said that we're going to be making a number of significant changes to matchmaking and ranked over the course of the year, being 2024 or season 14, mostly in the background. Ideally, there is no reason to create a new account to get to your actual rank. If you make a new account to Smurf, we can detect that and place you into accurate matches so quickly that creating a Smurf account feels like too much work for the amount of games you get to smash people. You know, there's a lot to unpack there, but the most important thing that we're going to stay on topic with is that they're going to be making a number of significant changes to matchmaking and ranked over the course of the year. That should catch your attention, obviously. So then another rioter, and by the way, this post is no longer in the thread. It's been deleted, which is a little bit weird. Maybe it's because this guy's no longer a rioter or something, and his comment history while he was a rioter was cleared or something. I have no idea. But it is weird that the post was deleted, but we have this screenshot here. So he helps us define what some of the different rating systems are, starting out with the most basic, straightforward, the chess elo rating system, named after Mr. Elo himself. Then we have MMR, which is matchmaking rating, which is a number used to determine skill in League and match you against other players. And then they have LOL MMR. And this is a little bit weird because he used in the definition of MMR that it is a number which is used to determine your skill in League. So what is LOL MMR and how is it different from MMR? LOL MMR is the current Bayesian skill estimation system used by League of Legends. So this is the one that we're currently using in the game. Not an ELO system like chess, not the original MMR system, but a LOL MMR system, which he is distinguishing from MMR, which, and then he says, here's a fun paper for True Skill 1 that describes the gist. So now we get into basically the controversial territory, which is True Skill 1 and True Skill 2. So True Skill, or True Skill 1 and True Skill 2 are rating systems that Microsoft developed originally for games like Halo, but has sold and licensed to other game studios who want to create a high-level competitive rank ladder for their game. And apparently, we have been using True Skill 1 in League for a long time. We don't know when, but my guess, knowing this now, my best guess is that after you stopped being able to see your MMR in Season 2, I think that that point where you stopped being able to see it anymore, which started in the beginning of season 3 in ranked, that's probably the point at which Riot switched to True Skill 1. And that makes sense because before they were a small company and this was their first game, and they weren't going to pay the big bucks to license a really complex ranking algorithm from Microsoft. Instead, they just developed their own system, which was MMR, which was based off of the chess ELO system and very similar, with some slight differences to account for things like, duoing and blue side, red side, and stuff like that. But with some basic adjustments, it was essentially the chess ELO system that only took into account your wins and losses. That's what MMR was. Now they're saying LOL MMR is essentially either actually them using True Skill 1 for Microsoft, or they developed something like True Skill 1 that's basically the same, because he doesn't say that they're using True Skill 1. He just says that they're using a Bayesian skill estimation system, and that the paper for True Skill 1 describes the gist of that system. But either way, whether they're using True Skill or whether they're using their own version of it that they've developed, here's what it does. It attempts to predict how good players are based on historical performance and give the matchmaker information to make good matches. Now, this last sentence is important, but it's very vague because he doesn't say almost anything. He just says that it attempts to predict how good players are based on historical performance, but we don't know what historical performance is based on, and give the matchmaker information, but we don't know what information it is, in order to make good matches. Then he describes True Skill 2. True Skill 2 is a newer version that Microsoft has developed, which is a skill estimation system containing improvements to accuracy compared to True Skill 1. And while they, are very careful, because there's a second paragraph here talking about True Skill 2, True Skill 2 is specifically advertised by Microsoft, if you just Google True Skill 2, as a rating system that uses things like KDA, player scores, and other things besides win and loss to determine a player's skill and then rank them appropriately. The problem is that while that may be okay for a shooter or for a game that has a really simple scoring system where you can tell that essentially scoring and winning are equivalent, in League of Legends, getting kills, deaths, assists, even doing damage are all relative to the role that you're playing and the type of champion that you're playing. So for example, for me as a tank support player, I'm not getting very many kills. I'm not even getting as many assists as an enchanter because I don't have an ability that I can just throw for free onto somebody to get an assist for everything that they kill. Instead, I have to get assists by actually hitting that person. And so it's more difficult for certain champions to get assists than other champions. Certain champions, like tank supports, are going to die more than other champions because they are engaging and they are playing like a tank while having less resources than every other tank in the game because they have less levels, less gold. So, if you're playing a tank in top lane, or if I'm just saying, obviously there's a lot of heavy concern with a rating system that would use KDA or would use damage share and things like that, because those would obviously be biased towards certain roles. And so anything that doesn't just use wins and losses to give people MMR seems really dangerous territory to take League into. And we may already be there. So now he says nothing about True Skill 2 implies that we must use or weight any additional factors outside of win or loss. Now, again, Microsoft actually doesn't say that, because they very clearly say that the point of True Skill 2 is to create improvements over True Skill 1 by using more than win and loss, by using those other metrics in order to more accurately, more quickly place a player or move them up or down the rank ladder to a rank where they'll win or lose 50% of their games. That said, we're always looking to improve our accuracy, and if some factor or another was highly predictive, we would experiment with it. So Riot is essentially saying that they're open to using other metrics besides wins and losses, or that they may already be using them in order to determine how you're doing in ranked. And I think that this is really bad because although you will still end up, and I'll explain this, you will still end up with an accurate placement. And a lot of players are going to want to jump on this and say, well, since you were wrong about how the MMR system works, and since this is like some crazy stuff, that the whole rank system is rigged and it's all ruined and blah, 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 you're still going to wind up with accurate placements. In fact, the whole point of True Skill or True Skill 2 is to create accurate placements faster by using other data. So think about these two things. Think about first how when Riot introduced using normal game MMR to place Smurfs, the intention and the goal was to determine how well they were doing in their normal games through MMR. And then based on their normal game MMR, they could place certain players higher or certain new players lower. When I say new players lower, not just because they're new, but because they're performing worse in the normal games because they're newer and they're worse at the game. So they would use normal MMR to help place accounts appropriately. That sped up the process of getting the account to the appropriate rank so that there were less Smurf games being played in ranked. It was a very good change. The only problem is that you have to implement it accurately. Otherwise, players could abuse it in order to slingshot past a rank they deserve, or end up getting placed too low unfairly or something like that. And then those things will fix itself over time. If they play lots of games, they will eventually demote back down, or if they play lots of games, they will eventually promote back up. But it forces them to play a ton of games to get an accurate rating on the account, which is the opposite of the point. The whole point is to place them accurately faster. Now, True Skill 1 and True Skill 2 are essentially doing the same thing. They're just using different data to do that. So they're saying, we're going to look at all these metrics, and if they're highly predictive in League of Legends of you being able to win 50% of your games in Platinum, or you being able to win 50% of your games in Emerald, and you're doing these things like a Platinum or an Emerald player would, then we're going to use these data points in this metric in order to place your account higher, and then your account's going to gain more MMR if you manage to keep winning. And so it'll move you into Platinum or move you into Emerald faster. But then if you start losing and you're not actually able to win 50% of your games, then it will move you backwards. Because essentially what we're trying to do is when we only have, and this is the case on a lot of Smurf accounts, when you only have 5 or 10 ranked games played, it's really hard using win and loss only to gauge how good a player is when you have such a small sample size. It's really accurate if you get them to play 200 or 300 games. It's extremely accurate. But if they've only played 5 or 10 games, it's really hard to say whether a player should be higher or lower or not, which is why in order to get an accurate rank placement, you've got to play a lot of games. But that poses a problem. If you have a lot of people playing on Smurf accounts, you don't want them to have to play 100 games or 200 games to get back to their rank. And so over the years, Riot has been trying to speed up the process at which Smurfs get out of lower ranks. And as a result, they've experimented with using normal MMR in order to affect people's placements. Now they're talking about, or maybe they already have implemented, using other data points, other metrics other than wins and losses. So it could be KDA, could be damage share, it could be proximity to objectives taken, could be proximity to kills, could be even how fast you're clicking, believe it or not, or like how you use your abilities. In fact, Riot actually admitted that in order to test balance changes that were specifically targeted at nerfing a champion only in high elo or nerfing a champion only in low elo, they actually collect data on how many times people throw their abilities. So for example, like I've talked about with key ability usage, a lot of high elo players don't throw their abilities as much as low elo players because they're waiting for good times to use them. Riot is actually keeping track of that, we know already, in order to be able to target nerfs or buffs at high elo or high skill brackets for that champion. And so we know that they have that data. So they may also be using how fast you're clicking, like right clicking and stuff like that. They may be using, if you're throwing your abilities out too much and stuff like that, and not using your abilities in the same patterns that a high elo player would. They might be using that in order to change your rank, which is really crazy. At the end of the day, what they're saying is that instead of having the 5 or 10 ranked games, 5 or 10 wins or losses to use, and we can only use that to place people, instead we can use the 5 or 10 ranked games, all of the normal games that they've played, and we can use all of the data from all of those normal games and all of those ranked games on how they're clicking, how they're using their abilities, their KDA, their proximity to this and that, their warding, all this stuff. They're going to use everything that they collect in order to say this player fits the profile of someone who's able to win 50% of their games in Platinum or Emerald or Diamond or Masters or whatever the case may be. And so the MMR system is going to edge this account upwards. It's going to push this account upwards and keep testing that player at higher and higher MMRs. And then if they're unable to win 50% of their games, then they're going to stop, or they're going to start to go back down a little bit. And so the idea is that actually your long-term results, your long-run results are going to be exactly the same. Because once you have 200 or 300 games played, they've got so much win and loss data and the MMR of both teams from those games that they're going to be able to accurately place your account, really, really accurately place your account, like within 1 or 2 divisions, if you played like 200 games. But if you haven't played 200 games, then they're not going to be able to accurately place you if they're only using win and losses, but now they are going to be able to do that quicker by using these other metrics. Now, this sounds really bad, and it's definitely different than how I thought ranked worked and how Riot was wanting to run the game. And I think that it's bad that they were not transparent about this, like really bad that they haven't been transparent about this at all. And I think that lack of transparency on Riot's part is going to cause lower rated players who are upset with their rating and who are struggling to improve to blame the system because it's not a transparent system and because it's using these other metrics. But I want you to take this thought experiment and still think about this, okay? So if a player were to, let's say, abuse these metrics, right? Let's say that somehow they figured out that doing this with KDA or doing that with damage or whatever would help them get higher in rank. If they did that, but they weren't actually a player who was capable of holding their own in Platinum or Emerald or whatever rank they get to, they wouldn't be able to win 50% of their games in that rank, and they would end up demoting anyways. So this isn't going to inaccurately place people higher than they should be, because if people are moved up by the system faster than someone else who's not getting the KDA or not getting the proximity to whatever the metrics they're using, we don't know, right? If whatever the case may be, if somebody moves up higher than they should be, then they won't be able to win 50% of their games. And if somebody is artificially being pushed lower because of this, as they play more games and they prove that they're able to win 50% or they're able to win 51% plus of their games, they'll move up because the more games you've played, the more data Riot has on wins and losses, which is the main thing that they're using to move you up or move you down. And so I still think it's a skill-based, accurate ranked system. Again, you wouldn't see me and other high elo players be able to go smurf in low elo and win a huge percentage, 70, 80, 90% of our games. You wouldn't see that happen if it wasn't a skill-based rating system. You wouldn't see silver players go into a challenger game and get destroyed if it wasn't a skill-based rating system. So obviously it is a skill-based rating system, but I was wrong about it being a skill-based rating system that was only relying on wins and losses. It may be possible that Riot is thinking about implementing or has already implemented other metrics to change your rank. Now, let's talk about True Skill 1 and True Skill 2 some more. So Riot is saying, and I think they say this in some of the other posts. Let's see. They are saying that, maybe it was in the other one. It was in the first one that we went over. So because Barack Obama had said that they were already on True Skill or True Skill 1, he said that was that or something equivalent to it was the current system Riot's already using for ranked. This post from Riot XR means that they're moving to a different proprietary Riot made system at the start of the new year-ish. And then tentatively planning on moving to a new system later in the year called True Skill 2. So it sounds like they either moved to True Skill a long time ago, and then they're moving to a Riot-made system for the start of the year. So we were already through the first split, so we're probably already through that system. And then they're going to try to move to True Skill 2. So what they're saying is True Skill 2 is coming by the end of the year. And since we've only got a couple of months left in the year and the season, True Skill 2 may well already be in the game, because this was 6 months ago, and Riot, like they said, is trying to do this in the background and is not going to tell anybody about it. Now, I have a crazy example that I want to share with you guys. And it's one of the reasons why I actually believe that something like this that's using other metrics is already in the game. So my wife and I created 2 accounts together, this account and this account, and we've been playing bot lane together. And I didn't intend to do this as a test, but it ended up working out pretty well. We played every single normal and bot game together that we played to level up the accounts, except for 2 or 3 normal games that I played without her that I happened to win. So unfortunately, I ended up skewing the experiment a little bit because of those 2 or 3 normal games. But regardless, we'll get into what happened. Currently, my account has moved all the way into Platinum 4. So, and currently, I am also in Platinum 4 after playing 2 of my 5 placement games. Her account has been in Silver the entire time. And in fact, she is still in like Silver 2 or something, maybe even lower, like Silver 3, Silver 2, Silver 1, but she's in Silver. And so we can no longer duo on these accounts. We have played every single ranked game on these accounts together, and we played every single normal and bot game on these accounts together, except 2 or 3 that normal games that I played without her and won. So yes, there should be some higher difference on my account because of those normal games that I played. But, you know, you would expect at most winning those 2 or 3 normal games would have increased my MMR by what, like 60? Like not even a division? So to be a whole rank and a half, for me to be Platinum 4 and her to be Silver 2, on accounts we played almost every single game on together. Every single ranked game. Every single normal game except 2 or 3. The only way to account for a whole rank and a half of difference is that they're using something other than wins and losses in their ranked algorithm. It has to be the case that it's already implemented in the game, because there's no way that 2 or 3 normal wins could account for a whole rank and a half of difference. I can't believe that that's possible. Now, it may be the case, right, because this wasn't a perfect experiment, because I played those 2 or 3 normal games. Maybe it's the case that those 2 or 3 normal games made the whole rank and a half difference. But I think it's really unlikely. So my belief is that something like True Skill 1 or 2 is already in the game, and they're using some other metric, and they can tell by the way I'm clicking and throwing my abilities and stuff like that and what I'm doing that I am a very productive player in the game that can hold my own at a higher rank. And so they've, you know, the MMR system, whatever true skill system they have has moved my account up at a faster rate than her account, even though we played every ranked game together. So, I don't know what to make of this, but I would definitely say that this anecdotal example that I've seen is proof enough for me that something like this has already been implemented. Now, if you want to know what True Skill 1 and True Skill 2 are, there are very long papers that Microsoft has published on True Skill 1, which is 8 pages long, and True Skill 2, which is 24 pages long. So I will be doing a even longer version where I go through these papers and try to decipher what is going on here with the rank system, given the fact that it probably isn't just based on winning and losing. Now, again, I'm pretty disappointed that Riot was so non-transparent about this, because when I put a video out like this and say that Riot isn't basing the rank system off of winning and losing, and they're using other stats in order to help place people at an appropriate rank faster, that's going to come across to a lot of lower ranked players or silver players as, or whoever, even higher ranked players, as like the whole rank system is completely rigged. Like, what is this? But it's, and I'm disappointed in Riot for being completely non-transparent about this. We don't even know when True Skill 2 is being introduced. So I'm very disappointed in Riot about that. And they said that they didn't want to hurt ranked integrity. And I get that like this system probably is accurate and not going to hurt ranked integrity, but it will hurt people's perception of ranked integrity because they've made such a complicated, random abstract system of placing people in ranked rather than something simple and transparent that does the same job as this in a way that people can understand and can trust. And so I think Riot has made the mistake of, again, over complexifying everything that they do because they need to work. They need to have something to do with their job. And so they overcomplicate things. They implement new ideas and new systems because they want to do something about the game when they get hired at Riot. And it just erodes trust and faith in the way that the game is being run. Again, like I said, if you believe that a player is somehow abusing, or like their play style happens to fit True Skill in a way that's abusing the system and pushing them higher, they will not be able to win 50% of their games in Platinum, in Emerald, in Diamond, or in Masters, or whatever, if they're not a good enough player to actually hold their own at that rank. And so at the end of the day, even if this pushes one account up faster, like for example, it's pushing my account up faster, it's not wrong that it's pushing my account up faster. It's just a faster, more accurate way of, well, I don't know about it. It's purportedly more accurate, but it is definitely a faster way of moving someone to the rank that they can win 50% of their games at. And so this should actually combat smurfing. It's probably slightly a positive thing. The fact that nobody really noticed, and this has potentially been in the game since like season 3, should tell you a lot about, how, I guess you could say, how unnoticeable the system is, which they've done apparently a good job of. Should these rioters have even said what they said? Probably not. I don't think that if this was information that we hadn't heard for 8 years or something like that, I don't think that it was supposed to come out in a Reddit post about some completely different topic. But anyway, so I'm going to end it there. GG, good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.